For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Telling you guys a bit of a review video on a kind of new but very well known product from Dometic. So this here is the Dometic Ace Air and this one is the 400. So Dometic has obviously been a brand that's been around for a while, and we saw in 2020 in that sort of dual branded system with Kampa Dometic. So kind of what Dometic have done, because they sort of since bought Kampa about a couple of years ago, they've now sort of moved their sort of name onto everything. Now it's still the kind of the product that we've known and loved, and the quality and still the same thing, just with a different headline name. So the ethos is still very much the same, all about being well designed awnings, good quality, and very much being very innovative with different designs and what we're looking at. So the Ace, as you can see, has been a name that's been around for a while. And it's got a real big facelift for 2021. It's something we've not seen for a while. The Ace for probably about 5 or 6 years now has very much been the same. A few tweaks here and there, but in many ways everything else around it's sort of evolved quite a bit. But for 2021 we've got a big headline notice. It's basically been redesigned to be kind of top end of Kampa's sort of polyester range in their Pro fabric. So has every single feature it has to offer. So we'll start at the start. So it's a single inflation awning, so one single point pumps the whole awning up. You've got internal sort of taps, which we'll come into when we go on the inside, that distribute the air quite nice and neatly. You've then got deflation valves located at the bottom of every single beam, so it makes it easier to get the air out. Again, we've done a pitching and packing video on this particular model, so you can see that on our own YouTube channel and our website. Pitched on my own, best part about 10-11 minutes, pumped up, sort of slid on, pumped up, pegged out the works, ready to go. So it shows you how quick, simple and easy it can be, making it perfect for those longer stays, but also those weekend stays as well. It means you can get this big awning for something that doesn't take that much longer, well, certainly a lot shorter than a poled awning. It uses kind of the Kampa's kind of, well, Dometic's Pro fabric, so it's a really nice 300D material, something they've used for a long time. It's one of those things, if it's not broke, they're not trying to fix it, and fair play for that. The Ace design still kind of stays with it, so we've got that kind of bay window kind of style, almost like a 50 pence kind of difference. Again, you've got the advantage that each individual panel can be removed, so the front panels and the side panels can be removed, and that will help to sort of reduce the weight of the awning, so when you're feeding it through the rail, makes it a lot simpler, but also what it allows you to do is almost pack it as 2 separate bags. One for sort of the main body of the awning, i.e. just the roof and the sort of the beams. A separate bag you can buy additionally for the side panels, the front panels, the curtains, the pump, the pegs, the ladders. You really want to go to that extreme. It means you've got 2 much more manageable sort of bags and weights, making it easier to store and more versatile. And that again, it means that when you come to feed it through the rail, it's all ready to go there and there. And that's probably one thing that is definitely worth looking at. In terms of its depth, it's actually a little bit deeper now, so we're looking at 3.25 meters rather than the 3 meters it was previously. So a little bit extra depth, and also that they've increased the beam diameter, gives you more stability and more internal space. Again, what you've got is still classical kind of things like the single point pegging point. So it means that a pegging point down here can peg the base and the guiding point out in one bit. It means there's one less pegging point for bits to go, and it all kind of adds up, makes it much more simpler. Again, it gives you the pegging sort of angle in the perfect sort of place. A new thing they've additioned on is this kind of canopy. Now it's an inflatable canopy, so it pumps up with the main body of it. It's pre-attached on, so it's really nice and easy to do, and it's a nice addition, something they did kind of in their all-season version of the Ace previously, but it was a pole. With this, it's much more easily done, looks smarter and very in keeping, very similar to kind of their own kind of club range in many ways. It gives you that sort of ability that you can have this kind of veranda kind of style front panel system, and you haven't got to worry about the water coming down and directly into the actual awning as well. So that again is a bit of a bonus. You've got beautiful clear PVC windows to get plenty of light in, but then traditional style Caravan curtains to get the privacy as and when you want it to. You've got sort of pegging ladders again, which are going to be adjustable, so it means it's easier to change it when you've got different sort of pitch heights or on different ground, and easily replaced if you essentially lose them or damage them for any reason in the long run. You supplied with it, you get a really nice high sort of pressure downdraft pump, so it makes it very easy. Admittedly, I think for pitching, I would probably recommend maybe the Gale pump. You can basically get it to a much more accurate pressure, but also you sit back, relax, let it do the work, you haven't got to worry about it. I did initially pitch this in the pitching video with me with the downdraft itself. It wasn't too bad. Like I said, just got a nice steady rate and it works all right. Other things to mention, you've got a really big, nice, oversized bag to make sure you get back in there, and especially if you said to can that into a separate bag, it means that it's going to be absolutely massive bag for it, so you haven't got to worry about it. Another new thing for 2021 is you've got now zips that run on the side. So the zips that run on the side now mean you can actually add additions to it. So in terms of sizes, you've got a 400 and a 500, so 4 meter wide, 5 meter wide. But now in theory, you can make it even bigger than that because you can add an extension on either end, or this sun wing as we've got it kind of shot here. So it means you can almost have, say, like an extension on one side and then a sun wing on the other. And because they don't connect into the main part of the rail, it can be as big as you want. So in theory, it can be bigger than the Caravan. It means that something like the old Frontier that we saw on previously is kind of redundant now because you can make something that's bigger and more versatile than the Frontier. The sun wing is a nice addition and it's available kind of from any of the awnings with a zip on the side. Same kind of depth as you see here as well, and it comes out about 260, and comes with the poles. So it creates that almost like sort of sheltered area before entering in your main body. Almost like a wet dry area. Shoes and things like bikes can be left out there initially. You're not too worried about getting a little bit wet or wind, but it kind of creates that really nice sort of clean carpeted area as we've sort of known and loved. You've still got additions you can buy, things like storm straps as well to give it a bit more additional bracing, and the aforementioned pump that I mentioned earlier. Other things that are a big sort of change for 2021 is the fact that there's now a zip running along the very top of the awning, and that means you can buy an additional kind of shelter to go on the top. So it's almost like a roof protector or sunshade. What that's going to do is protect the actual awning itself from being damaged. What you also will find is actually, to be fair, it will actually help a bit with sort of condensation because you've got a sort of a multiple layer kind of scenario. But the sunshade, as we've got its own separate video, can also be used in many ways to be as a just a sun canopy on its own. So you've got the option of having just a sun canopy for those sort of weekends, or double up for an extra protection on your awning itself. The system's a little bit changed as well, so the wings are no longer on the side, and one of the big things for 2021 is that this is now dual fitting, so it will fit a motorhome as well as a Caravan. It's only available in one size, which is essentially S, so it'll fit any vehicle from 235 up to 265, and you'd only need about 4 meters 10 on the width to fit it in, or if you really wanted to do something massive, the 500 model, 5 meters 10. You also got a new Apex roof vent. So previously we saw like a curve around the side. They've got away with that now, really, because means it's much more, it's a bit more better with the little side wings in there as well. But it means it's almost permanently open, so it means you benefit from having a constant circulation regardless whether you want it or not, which is very crucial for sort of reducing down the condensation. Later on in the video I will pick up the camera and we'll have a little bit of a look around the awning, but initially let's have a look inside the awning and talk through a few more features that the Ace has to offer. So now inside the Ace, you kind of get a bit more idea for sort of the sheer amount of depth. Like I said, even though it's kind of only gone about 25 centimeters deeper, straight away you do feel it big, really a lot. It just means that you're almost further away from the Caravan itself. So that 325, it's not the deepest thing on the market, don't get me wrong, but it's still adequate enough that gives you a great sort of internal space. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to be too big that a campsite's going to normally sort of be quite sort of picky on that sometimes. So yeah, 325 deep, really nice space. You have a table and chairs in here quite happily, you're not sort of interfering from the Caravan. And again, you think about when you sort of step out your Caravan, you've got a step here, last thing you want to do is encroaching straight on your kind of furniture. And that's one of the big things that you don't have to have with this. Again, that kind of bay window kind of style gives that great sort of panoramic view around the campsite, and it sort of, again, makes it a little bit different in terms of on there. It's not all big boxes, there's a bit more character to it as well. And again, what you find is actually in terms of the interior height is quite nice and tall, and it's down to this kind of dual pitch system in the roof, but also in the front. So it means you get great drainage, but also great internal height. You've got these new really big oversized beams, again, to give you a bigger and better strength, but also kind of just hold that extra little bit of span as well, just to make it a bit firmer. You've got, as we talked about outside, you've got a single inflation point located there. The air comes in and then distributes itself through these taps into everywhere. And then what you can always do is have the flexibility of isolating every single beam off. So for example, if I turn the taps there, that beam is then completely isolated. I can then, if I wanted to, zip it out the sleeve, zip out the shell and get to the actual bladder, patch it, repair it, or completely replace it and put it back in, you're good to go. And again, the fittings are just like, almost like just, well, a garden kind of hose kind of stuff. So it's a very kind of simple system. May look a bit complicated, but it is quite nice. As we saw, the 3 panels, you've got the options to have sort of, obviously, you get curtains supplied with it for everywhere, so you get the privacy when you wanted to. So not only do you have great clarity, but you've also said get that sort of kind of shelter as and when required. Now, you can choose to put them on and off, and what I've almost done is sort of done different scenarios. So I've got one with it off, I've got one with it off, and then created a veranda, and then got the curtains in. So the curtains are really nicely patterned, and what you can do as well is just pull it alongside. There's a little strap here, just retain it. And basically keeps it nice and close to the window to make sure even with the slope it sits there and you get that full level of privacy. When you don't want to use it again, you can just sort of pull it to the side like you would with a sort of very homely kind of feel, and you've got a little kind of retaining clip, so it's just like a press studded clip and it just keeps it on. So really easy to do and take off as you need to. All the zip panels actually have 4 zips, so what you can create, like I said, is this little veranda kind of style. Now, it will automatically kind of do that just by sort of taking the zips down, and then when you've got the mesh panels in place, it almost folds in between the gaps, as you can see here. What you can also do is now for 2021 is there's a little thing called a veranda pole. So there's an additional pole, again, pretty much self-explanatory. Now, you either sort of just fold that fabric over the top, alternatively, if you wanted to kind of go a bit more elaborate, depends on how sort of picky you want to be. What you can almost do is kind of roll, if you stand it out a bit more, roll the material a little bit around it. Kind of adjust that into its position. And then it just creates a bit more of a seamless kind of solid veranda part to it. And like I said, the poles are additional purchase you can put in anywhere you like, really. We've always mentioned the mesh panels. Now there's a secondary zip to have the mesh panels, so it means you can have the panel in place and the zips, you haven't got to choose between one and the other. And again, we've got the scenario here, we've got a half and half, where it works really quite nice and neatly. And they've set, mesh panels comes a completely set free, so do the front of any sort of awning, really. Other things that to mention are quite unique to Kampa as well is we've got things like little Velcro tabs for additional kind of saber light lighting. So it means that you can have sort of internal lighting, without having to worry about the rubbish Caravan lights. And you can buy, it's the 150 you want, you buy a starter kit and then add-ons. So you can have 3 lights run off a single socket with remote control as well to alter the brightness. So it means you haven't got to worry too much about blaring everything on at the middle of the night. Other things to mention as well, things like small little details like hanging points to put wardrobe holes in. You've got a roof liner as well, which can be attached. That's really help with condensation. So little white toggles to put that in. And again, black toggles for an inner bedroom. There are annexes, of course, you can put on, and it can go on either side. The side panels, like I said, can be removed. They actually can be interchanged with one another. So what that's going to really do is sort of reposition the door from towards the back of the Caravan to the front. So that panel swapping with that panel means that, again, you can sort of flex it around and exit out that way rather than having to shut the door before going out of it. As well, what you see is you've got this full mesh door built into it. Well, door, but also mesh door. And you roll that back. It's the same on both sides. One of the panels also does have a mesh window as well, so you can get ultimate amount of ventilation through obviously the door, the window, obviously the front panels were tradition, and then that apex point at the top. The ceiling to the van is no different to how it's been previously, so we've got a really nice kind of design where you've got a foam pad to push that foam, and you buy additional rear upright poles to push that directly against there, and again it's also limpet ready so you can get that kind of seal on there as you wanted to. For 2021, the draft skirt is now an optional extra. Because it fits motorhomes, they don't include sort of a draft skirt because a lot of motorhomes don't want it. And again, for the motorhome side of things, they don't include the rear poles because, again, not everyone wants them in different heights. So essentially, they're both now optional extras. But the big thing for 2021 as well is the adjustment in the height. So suddenly if you've got an issue with the pitch and level, or you're in a motorhome and you need something taller, you've got this internal zip and external zip. So there's an internal zip here, which can be undone. It's really nicely and neatly tucked away. And then that kind of extends this component all the way up. So suddenly it means, in fact, we'll do it from the, we'll unzip from the outside as well. So this whole section now can drop down. So it means that you can adjust the height of it. This unvelcros off. And it means it'll fit motorhomes, or if you're sort of on chocks or anything like that out of it, you've then got a little bit more adjustment. And it's one of those criticisms that's certainly been there, is that there wasn't a whole lot of adjustment at this end, but now what you can do is almost do it at this end, so you sort of raise it up for higher ground. You can still use packing pads to press against the van or down the bottom to adjust it a bit, but this whole new concept is really quite groundbreaking. You know, it suddenly means that if you change from a caravan to motorhome, you won't necessarily have to change your awning as well, and it just all folds nice and neatly into that little pocket. So again, works really well, and it's very well weather tested. So that's a really new, exciting thing for 2021 as well, and just gives a bit more versatility to each of the products. Obviously, we've got different optional carpets are available as well, but overall, really nice, really bright. Sky windows can also allow plenty of light to come into the awning itself, but if you buy the sort of roof lining, that helps to kind of just shelter that. So you wanted curtains for the roof, that works again really well. Overall, height-wise, quite impressive. I mean, I'm about 6'2", and I can pretty much stand up in anywhere in here, especially when we get to the front, for example. You almost put your head out the canopy. It also means that things like necessarily furniture, tables and chairs can be pushed much closer to the edge. So again, you maximise your space by having this kind of very more kind of boxy shape. Overall, I think for me, the additions they put on the Ace have worked really well. But let's have a little bit of a 360 degrees view of the model, just to kind of get a bit more of an idea about it. So first point I'll probably start with is obviously when we're sort of coming in here for the internal. Like I said, you've got that kind of bay window kind of style opening. I've removed that sort of side panel initially just to kind of give you a bit more idea about it. But it works really well. I've said great windows, good curtains, and you've got the little taps in the valve, and you can see how it sort of kind of presses quite nice and neatly against the Caravan. In terms of that little zip, so like I said, it's quite seamless. You can see it sort of just located there on the sort of outside, and like I said, it's very well hidden. It gives you a bit more flexibility. So as we kind of walk out, that kind of 50p kind of look with that canopy, I think just looks absolutely brilliant. I think it's really designed really well. To be fair, I've got engineered well, and that sunwing as well as an option. Just makes everything a lot more flexible. And as we kind of come in, you can see kind of that sort of sheltered area from it. You've got that apex kind of vent in the top there, so like I said, that sort of is permanently open. And again, you can see how that sort of the external zip attaches that additional kind of part on there. In terms of its overall depth, that canopy, as you see, it kind of peaks directly over the panels, giving you a perfect amount of coverage. And again, the single inflation point is all located directly at the front. There is, like I said, additional zip on the very roof section. So if you wanted to put additional kind of roof protector or sun shower, as they call, you've got that quite located there. And again, you can kind of feel a bit more about that. That's kind of dual pitch roof scenario. Overall, I think, like I said, impressive model. It's something, the additions and the tweaks they've made are, in terms of, if you look at it as a whole, are quite a lot. And there's quite a lot of big talking points. You know, if you compare this to sort of any of the Aces from previous seasons, it's almost like a completely new awning. It looks and feels similar, but you know, with the brow canopy pole, the height adjustments, the additional for a zip on the top, you've then got the deeper depth, you've got bigger beams, veranda pole options. That's the main sort of headline, but that's a lot to change in certainly a year. Obviously different zips on the side for different extensions and different options. There's an awful lot going on here, and suddenly it becomes a much more versatile awning than it ever was. And that's where something like this it's definitely one we'll have at our indoor display showroom. So if you want to see us in the flesh and kind of really appreciate kind of the tweaks and the changes here and there, it's probably, these videos might be helpful, but it's nothing in comparison to see it in the flesh. But so yeah, that's kind of a little video review on kind of the Ace. If you want to see more information or pricing and package deals we have to offer, if you check the link below this video, it'll take you straight through to that with all the information and everything all ready to go, as well as the other videos we've done on the pitching it and one talking about all the accessories you can buy for it to go as well. So, but yeah, in all, that's kind of our video review on the new Dometic Ace Air Pro in the 400 size and then also the 500 size.